Okay, we're in volume 9 of the set of 10 books that I got called The Bible Story by Arthur S Maxwell. We are at part 3, story 8, The Creator Rests Again. Rests Again. Sometimes my southern accent kind of goes, okay. While all this was happening, a sound of sobbing might have been heard from the large company of people, mostly women, who were standing some distance from the cross. They were the special friends of Jesus, many of them from Galilee, and they were heartbroken. The Bible says that all his acquaintance, the women that followed him from Galilee, stood far off, beholding these things. Among those who were most sorrowful were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus, of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's children. Excuse me. These had been very close to Jesus in the past 3 years, and you can imagine how they were feeling now. They had hoped and hoped, even up to the last minute, that Jesus would reveal his power and perhaps surprise everybody by leaping down unharmed from the cross. Hour after hour they had watched and waited in helpless misery. They had seen noon become dark as midnight. They had perceived anxiously through the dense gloom at the three crosses on the hill. They had heard the last loud cry of their beloved master. They had felt the earthquake and shudder at the dreadful lightning and the deafening peals of thunder. They had wondered whether these might be the heralds of his kingdom. But no, the storm had passed. The earth had ceased to shake. All was over. Jesus was dead. There was nothing to do but return to Jerusalem and try to forget. It was almost sunset now, and the women knew they would have to go soon. But oh, how they hated to leave the spot. What would happen to his body after they had gone? They wondered. That it would be taken off the cross before the Sabbath day, they were sure. But what would the Romans do with it? Would they throw it into a criminal's grave, or let it lie on the hillside for the crowds and the rats to devour? The crows and the rats to devour. Then someone saw the ladders. Look, they're going to take him down, a woman cried. And then it has an illustration of, of the same thing right here. See the one pointing, saying, look, there's a ladder, they're taking them down. So this is the illustration. Okay. The whole company began to press nearer so that they could see better in the gathering dusk. Who is pulling the nails out? Asked another. He looks like Joseph of Arimathea. It can't be. He's one of the richest men in Israel. But it is Joseph. I'm sure of it. And the man on the other ladder is Nicodemus. Nicodemus. Closer still, they went to see the amazing sight. God bless them, I can hear these women saying. God bless them for being to help, so brave and good to help our master now. They watched as the two men gently lowered the body to the ground, covered it with myrrh and aloe Nicodemus had brought, and wrapped it in a white linen shroud supplied by Joseph. It was clear now that these men planned to bury Jesus, but where? Presently, a little procession started winding down the hill. The women watched and wondered. Joseph and Nicodemus had not gone far from their precious burden, did not go far with their precious burden. For near the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden was a new sepulchre, wherein was never laid, was never man laid yet. So it was a brand new grave inside of the mountain. It was Joseph's own sepulchre, which he had built for himself and his family, but no doubt at a very great expense. So he actually built it for his family. So uh, after Jesus rose again and all, so it would have Joseph of Arimathea's folks in it. Common sense would say that, right? Okay, but I digress. Let me get back to the story. If you ever go to Palestine, you will be able to see it, or one just like it. I went inside one once and noticed how it had was shown out of solid rock, as the Bible says, and now it was unfurnished when Joseph, and how it was unfurnished when Joseph gave it to Jesus. Arriving at the tomb, Joseph and Nicodemus carried Jesus inside, laid him gently on the floor, and went out, closing the entrance by rolling a great stone across it. Then they went to their homes to keep the holy Sabbath. So far as we know, no burial service of any kind was held for Jesus. Yeah, because there was no time. There was no time, since he died, as the Bible says, at the ninth hour, or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There would be but 3 hours or so left until sunset, when the Sabbath began. During this time, Joseph of Arimathea went to Pilate. Pilate sent for a centurion to find out where Jesus was dead already, and later told Joseph that he could have the body. Then Joseph walked or rode a donkey to Calvary. He and Nicodemus took the body down, wrapped it in a shroud, and carried it slowly to the sepulchre. These were 3 busy hours, and it must have been very close to Sabbath when the two men left for their home. Wait, okay, those were busy 3 hours, and it had been very close to Sabbath when the two men left for home. Okay, now that makes better sense. And then, of course, it's got them taking them out, putting them in there. I didn't pay attention when they took my sister out of her home, and I kind of remember what they did put when they took my husband out. He was on a stretcher, but back then they didn't have a stretcher. I didn't see my sister be put on the stretcher, or even paid attention to her being put in the hearse. I saw my husband be put in the hearse, but I didn't see my sister. But let me get back to the story. As for the Galilean women who left too, scattered to the tents they had put up for shelter during the Passover. Yeah, Passover they're supposed to be in a tent. Okay, the Bible says they returned and prepared spices and ointments and rested the Sabbath day according to the commandment. When all was done, when all had gone, darkness and silence fell upon the sepulchre and the three crosses on Calvary's hill. The crowd had been the crowds that had thronged the place all day had disappeared. Meanwhile, in and around Jerusalem, thousands of priests, rulers, scribes, Pharisees, Sadducees, and the common people were piously serving the Sabbath, while the Lord of the Sabbath, who they had killed, rested in a lonely sepulchre outside the city walls. Back in Eden, Jesus had rested on the seventh day after all his mighty works of creation. Now he was resting again on the seventh day at the close of his still greater and more glorious work of redemption. And then it has a picture of the of these may be two of the Marys here the at the tomb. But you know the tomb is already sealed up and they got soldiers there. So this is all already kind of because they got soldiers there because they know better. Because it was supposed to be sealed. Okay, well, that was part 3, story 8. So, of course, I'm going to stop. It's starting to get a little dark. So, I'm going to stop and then take a break, and then I'll be back in just a minute. And I think we got this two more stories in part 3, and then we start with the rest of part 4, and then I can start on volume 10. Okay, talk to you in a bit. See you in a bit.